I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for boundary. Whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for boundary. I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for boundary. Whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for boundary.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Between the Lines presented to you by Live Wire Sports. Tonight on our show, our guest is Mr. Milt Newton. Milt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me on your forum and looking forward to the conversation.
All right, I think we have a lot in store for our viewers here with you being on the show. We're excited. We hope you're excited too.
Yeah, yes, I am. Real excited. Always happy to share with my brethren. So it's all good here.
All right, so let's jump right into it. So tell us, Milt, where are you from?
I am originally from St. Thomas. I grew up in Bordeaux and Savon and was on the island until I was 13. Then left for the mainland.
All right, now where did you go when you left for the mainland?
Went to New Jersey first, and then for a year, and then ended up in Washington, D.C., where I played high school basketball there.
So I know it's a hard adjustment to make for a college student to move to the States. So I can't imagine you at 13 years old in middle school making that adjustment from living here, where it's always warm, to someplace like New Jersey, actually cold. How was that?
From what I can remember, it was a good experience. I moved to New Jersey with my cousin Dale, who still lives in St. Thomas, but at the time lived in New Jersey. And, it was a culture shock at first with the weather and all that. But at the end of the day, all 13-year-olds are the same. And, and just I assimilated real well. And, that was a start for me in terms of sports, just seeing the different type of athletes and players that are, on the mainland as opposed to on the island.
Right. Now, when did your love for sports begin?
My love for sports began when I was 5 years old. I said I wanted to play in the NBA. So I think any kid from the islands, really, I mean, that's what cricket, basketball, football, boxing, baseball. So, that's all we had. We didn't have the Xbox and games like that. So summertime, we spent all day on the basketball courts or on a baseball field or a football field. And, that's what we knew. And, that was my love from the time I was a kid.
Now, what sports did you play growing up? Because usually we don't zero in on sport until we get to maybe high school or college. What other sports did you play while you were growing up?
I actually played primarily basketball. It was just something about basketball. I can't remember how old I was, but I remember Dr. J, Artis Gilmore, a couple of the other NBA stars came down and had an exhibition game at CVI. And I remember getting a chance to go to that game and actually meeting and talking with Dr. J after the game. But he's always been my idol from the time I was younger. I dabbled in football a little bit. Wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. Soccer, baseball, but basketball was my first love. And just remember spending many days during the summer and many nights after school on the playground above our house. So that was my first love.
Now, with you mentioning Dr. J being one of your idols, I just really want to know, did you have one of those big afros back in the days?
No, my I couldn't grow hair like that. I had a little mini afro that my cousin used to braid every now and then, but nah, I didn't have the hair growing genes.
All right, well, you definitely got some basketball talent by watching him play, so you got something from him.
Yes, for sure. Yes.
Now, when was the first time you played organized basketball? What age? What grade?
I want to say the first time organized basketball, because we had basketball, we had a basketball team, a BD basketball team. Um, Cyril Benjamin, CB used to was our coach, and so I think that was my first time playing organized basketball. I want to say my first game of organized basketball is when we played against Rungdefield and BD basketball, and so that was my first time playing organized basketball and not just pickup.
Now, what was the basketball scene like during your age? We know what it is now. We have a lot of tournaments and stuff going on. What was it like with you growing up playing basketball in that era?
Well, I tell you what, when I was that young, like the big thing on the island in St. Thomas was man league. Mm-hmm. So we had, just all the older guys playing, in the tournaments. 88, Big Sid, CB. Just so many guys that I used to look up to because they were really good. How can I forget Sparks, Big Sparks? But back then, all the younger kids want to look up to the old heads, and I was no different. And so every time there were games like that, whether it was Bournefield coming down the border to play or Savannah or what have you, run the field, we were all just sitting down, just watching these guys play, hoping to be like them one day.
Right. Now, how was the adjustment different for you from playing ball here in the Virgin Islands to playing high school ball in DC?
Well, I learned so much when I went to the States to play ball. We're all athletic. We all can run and jump. And when we're younger, we think that's what the game is about. And I had a high school coach who was a DC legend, played at Howard University, and the first thing he taught me was how to shoot the ball correctly. Right. And so I just learned the fundamentals of the game, and I learned even more so about the game when I went to college and played for Hall of Famer Larry Brown. And so a lot of the things that I was taught, that's what we teach when I come back and we conduct our summer camps. We all can run and jump, but you have to know how to think the game, how to understand the game, how to react to the game. And so those are the things that I was taught and learned when I moved to the States.
Now, would you play in high school basketball in DC? Were there any extraordinary accolades that you received or awards during that time playing high school basketball?
I tell you what, back then, DC basketball was like a lot of the guys went D1, high D1, Virginia, Georgetown, Maryland. So when I was on my team, five starters went D1. One went to Georgetown, one went to Virginia Tech, one went to Maryland, I went to Kansas, and another kid went to, I think, Tennessee State, University of Tennessee. I can't remember which one. But so we had a really stacked team, but all the other teams were stacked as well. Dunbar, Spingarn, Cardoza, they were all, and then you had DeMatha from the private school sector. You had Gonzaga, you had St. John's, and DC basketball was one of the tops in the country. So, excuse me. So in terms of like accolades, I can't remember ever receiving any type of award, maybe like an all tournament. But I would say the number one award that I got when I was in high school was getting a scholarship to the University of Kansas.
All right, and that's a big thing there. Education comes first, and at these moments, we notice a lot of kids don't understand the significance of a scholarship. It's not just saying that you're the best basketball player in your city. it's more so an award for you to use to get an education. A lot of these days, especially in the NBA, they kind of do this one and done thing. But scholarship can just be a tool for you to get an education. You can not play for those 4 years. You can be on the bench, but you are awarded a scholarship. You are awarded free education. You're saving your parents' money. So that's definitely a big award to get coming out of high school.
Well, yeah, to elaborate on that, first of all, it was really something that I wanted once I got into high school, and being the player that I was. But when I got to Washington D.C., like the people that I now call my parents, who looked after me and took care of me, they were college educated and really stressed to me the importance of college and getting a degree, because I've noticed with some of my friends that you can go to college for 4 years and not walk away with a degree and not be good enough to play pro sports. And back then, and even more so now, a college education is the difference between, getting a really good job or, getting a menial job, which is nothing wrong with that. But why not put yourself in a position where you can improve, your life, you can improve yourself financially by making sure that people understand that when you went to a university or a college, you came away with knowledge, and the paper actually shows that. So for me, it's very important, especially for the younger generation. Even now, we have a lot of guys, a lot of players that come into the NBA that were one and done. And after they play out maybe half of their rookie contract and they get released because they're not good enough, they have to chase that dream on the basketball court because they did not get that diploma. They did not get that degree that allows them to do something after their playing days are over. So I think it's really important for for the younger generation to really understand that, to go to a college and come away with nothing to show for it, to me, it just doesn't make any sense at all.
Definitely. Now let's jump into a little bit of the recruitment process. How was that process for you? Be recruited to go to campus?
Well, I mean, once you have an ability or a talent that people want, obviously you're going to have more opportunities. And actually, I was recruited by Georgetown. I could have gone to Georgetown. I could have gone to University of Maryland. Could have gone to Indiana. And so we had all these different schools that came in and made their pitch. And now, just seeing what style would fit you. So I narrowed my choices down to Kansas, New Mexico, and believe it or not, University of Nebraska. Now, the University of Nebraska back then had the best football team. And the reason why I visited Nebraska is because I had a college coach that was, he would never let underclassmen see the schools that were recruiting them. And so it was a big thing for all of us to find out who liked us. And I remember one day when he went for lunch, we kind of snuck into his office and got into his dresser drawer with all the letters. And we all made a pact that whatever the first letter that we pulled out of our envelope, that's the school that we were going to visit. And the first letter that I pulled out was from the University of Nebraska. Now, needless to say, I took a visit there when the football team was out of town, and the town seemed like it was deserted. So I knew I wasn't going there. So Larry Brown at the time was the head coach at the University of Kansas. I know he coached in the pros. Danny Manning had signed with them. And so I went there, had a really good time with the coaching staff and the current players that were there, and decided that I was going to go to the University of Kansas. And but in all, the recruiting process was the same that how I go about everything. I do pros and cons. Right. One of the things that I did was in my decision, it was after I graduated, could I live in this town? And so Kansas City being 30 minutes away, I could have lived in Kansas City. And so just going through the whole process for me, but I also had help, but I also knew that I wanted to go somewhere that was my decision and somewhere that I felt comfortable with. And it took me a quick second to be comfortable around that environment, going from going from the islands, which is predominantly Black, to Washington, D.C., which is predominantly Black, to going to Lawrence, Kansas, which is predominantly white. And so it just took me a minute to get my bearings to be in that type of setting. But after that, it was a great experience.
Now let's talk a little bit about that college experience, because it's a different thing from high school. You're you're on your own somewhat because you're no longer sheltered by your parents.
True.
But you're still sheltered enough by the university itself and the basketball team. So how was that transition for you, taking that step into college?
Well, the transition for me was an easy one because, don't forget now, I left the islands, left my mom and my cousins and my aunts and my grandmother and everyone else to go to the States. So I was familiar with kind of going to places and being on my own. Now, when I went to University of Kansas, when you go to college, you have so much time on your hands. You don't have someone necessarily looking after you or looking over you to make sure that you do what you're supposed to do. I have a daughter who will be attending Lafayette College next fall, and I'm going to have to explain to her that when you're on a college campus, you can come and go as you please, but you also have responsibilities. And I found that out the hard way. So my freshman year, first semester, Danny Manning and I were roommates, and back then you needed a 1.8 to be eligible to compete in sports. I had a 1.83 and he had like a 1.87. And with my mom and my dad, that was not going to fly. So I quickly realized that I had to get my grades up. And the fact that my GPA was what the minimum needed to compete was because I spent my whole first semester just going out to parties, going out to clubs, just doing everything and doing the minimum to get by. So after the first semester, my dad actually came to Lawrence and told me to pack my bags, and he was going to send me to Delaware State where he went to college. And so after kind of going back and forth with him about, getting another chance to show that I'm college material, I pretty much buckled down and was on a dean's list from there on out. So I knew I could do the work, but you just have to manage your time, which I did not do my first semester.
So balancing sports and school is definitely one of the hardest things to do, especially at a D1 program where you have to wake up early for workouts. You have to stay late to watch game film and those kind of stuff. And you still have to go to regular practice, travel on the road for games. So it is pretty hard to be an athlete in college, but we're glad to see that you persevered through that with the help of your parents, definitely.
Most definitely. And you hit it right on the head. I mean, I know things have changed a little bit, but a typical day for me was getting up probably like around 7 o'clock, making sure I'm at class by 8:30, 9 o'clock, and you're going all the way through until 3 o'clock. And from 3 o'clock, Coach Brown, back then you could practice as long as you wanted. And so I had a coach where we would practice for 3 hours. And then after 3 hours, he would say, all right, guys, 10 more minutes. And he would say 10 more minutes, like maybe 6 times. So you're practicing for another 60 minutes. And then after that, you're so tired, you can't really eat at the training table because you just don't have any energy. And then after that, now you got to go to study hall and study. And by the time you're done with study hall, it's pretty much 12:30, 1 o'clock. You got to get to bed. Some of us went to bed. Some of us went out. And then you got to do it again the next day. So it's just a matter of, just managing your time because, there's going to be time to be a college student and have fun. But your responsibilities are your education. And if you have a scholarship, being the best person, the best player you can be for your team.
Now, what are some of the things that you learned from Coach Larry Brown? Again, this is a legendary basketball coach that you played for. You kind of chose that path because you knew what kind of coach he was. What were some of the things you learned from your coach in college?
Well, and I do speak to him to this day. We text and we talk. He is one of my mentors. He's one of the people that I love because he took an interest in me early, and it made me a better person. But just when you're part of a team, we like to say that we want you to be a we person as opposed to a me person. And sometimes you come to a situation like in college, and maybe you're the best player in your city, and you come and you think it's about you. And he taught me, and not just me, but all my other teammates, that if you aspire to have goals, one, you have to work towards those goals. You got to put in hard work, but then also you have to sacrifice personal things for team accolades. And that's one of the things that I try to tell our professional players right now. Like, the goal is actually bigger than you. And so if you say your goal is to win a championship, then it would be more selfish to maybe go out on a Friday night before a Saturday game. It would be more selfish to do things that could affect your position on the team, maybe where you get kicked off or suspended. And so rather than thinking about yourself, you have to think about your teammates. And so, one of the things that he taught me was that, team is bigger than I. And because when I first got there, being from, the inner cities in Washington, D.C., and kind of playing and one basketball and, trying to score, you get there, you have to fit in. And the more and more you're within that organization, you see that one player can't beat five. So it's better if you fit in and play with those four other teammates, give you a better chance to win. But just being a good teammate, being a good person, being unselfish, thinking about your teammates first, those are all the things, some of the things that he helped me learn when I was there.
Now, would you go into such a legendary basketball program playing for a legendary coach? What would you say was your best year during your years there at Kansas, as far as on the basketball court?
Wow. Well, my best year was actually the year we won the championship. And I tell you why. That year for me was a year of perseverance. The year prior to that, my freshman year, I thought that I should have played more, but I had seniors and juniors ahead of me who paid their dues. And so with the big programs, unless you're a bona fide superstar like my teammate was, Danny Manning, you're not going to come in and start right away. You got to work your way up. And so my freshman year, I rarely played, maybe average, maybe 5 minutes a game. And that was really hard for me to accept, because there were times in practice when I knew that I outplayed, the sophomores, the juniors, and some of the seniors. But that's not the Kansas way. So I kind of had to work my way up. And my sophomore year, I redshirted because we still had juniors and seniors ahead of me that were going to play. So now we get around to my junior year athletically. And initially, I'm still struggling to get playing time because the year before they went out and got like a hot shot, a really good JUCO player who was a junior college All-American, and we're competing for time. And Coach felt it was best for him to play most of the minutes. But unfortunately for him, and he's one of my best friends to this day. Matter of fact, all my teammates are. But he went down with an injury, and that gave me an opportunity to play. And once Coach gave me that opportunity to play, I didn't look back. My first game starting, I scored 24 points. And then I just kind of took off from there. The year we won that championship, I was the second leading scorer on the team after not playing for maybe the first I want to say maybe 8 or 9 games, can't really remember, but we had a team that was loaded from the beginning, and we had some guys that got kicked off for disciplinary reasons. We had guys that transferred because they weren't playing and didn't want to wait. And so the team that we ended up with in the end was not the team that we started with, but the team that we ended up with in the end, we banded together, we fought for each other. We everything we did for each other, and that's what Coach was always telling us about. Playing for your teammate, and so that was a great year. Probably my greatest year, not statistically, but my greatest year being a part of a team that won a championship.
Now it's pretty hard for young men and women who join sports teams to understand that sometimes you just have to wait your turn. It's hard to hear it, but
yeah.
As you can see, it worked out for you in that situation where you waited your turn, you were a team player, and when you got your opportunity, like you said, you took advantage of it and you did not look back. So that's something we really want to get out to our student athletes. It's not going to always go your way. It's not. But when you do get your opportunity, take your opportunity and do not take it for granted. Do what you can with that moment and live in the moment, honestly.
Yes, and to elaborate on that, the one thing that I did is I worked hard every day in practice because I was determined to show Coach that I am that player that he thought I was when he recruited me. And I remember to this day, Coach will say this to me every now and then when I see him, and he said it publicly. He says, I was stupid not to play Milt earlier. So when he says that, it makes me feel good because I wanted to show him that I get it, but I'm better than that guy or I'm better than that person. And if you say you want to play your best team, then I should be playing. But I didn't get down to the point where I just stopped working and gave up. I would say that at one point things were getting really tough and I wanted to transfer. And so I thought I would go in the coach's office and try to bluff him into playing me more. So I go in after practice and I say, hey, Coach, I think I'd like to transfer. I'm not playing as much as I think I should. And so I want to transfer. And I thought he was going to say, well, don't worry about it. I'll play you more minutes. He said, give me a list of schools that you want to go to, and I will call those coaches for you. Definitely not the answer I wanted to hear. So I left the office and I was standing in the hallway and I thought about it. And I said, you know what? My parents didn't raise a quitter. I grew up a fighter. So if you put an obstacle in front of me, I'm not trying to go around it or go over it. I'm trying to go through it. And so I turned around and I went back in the coach's office and I said, Coach, you know what? I'm going to show you that I deserve to play. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to work hard and I'm going to make you play me. And, he tells me that he really appreciated my approach and he saw that I was someone that he could be in the trenches with because I was willing to fight, a tough battle. And so that's one situation where a lot of times when things aren't going our way, as an adult, if you get fired from a job, you just can't give up and, you have to look for another job. So there are times when we're going to be in a situation where things aren't going our way and we just have to buckle down and, as we say, buck up and get back on the horse and get after it. And if anything, I can tell a lot of the young folks who are watching right now is, sometimes life is not easy, but you can't lay down either. If things aren't going your way, you just got to persevere and keep fighting and wait for your break and be prepared when your break comes, because it doesn't make any sense that your break comes and you're not prepared. So while you're going through that struggle, you just got to continue to get better.
Definitely. Well said. Well said. I want to talk to you a little bit about the NCAA tournament. How was that experience? Now, going to a school like Kansas, I'm going to expect that you made the NCAA tournament just about every year. How hard was it for you guys to win the NCAA tournament that year?
We'll put it like this. The year we won it, we were not the best team in the tournament. We had a good team. We played well together. And in anything, whether it's the NBA finals or the college basketball NCAAs, you need a little bit of luck. So the year we won it, the first game we played against a team called Xavier. And Xavier had, I think, Derek Strong at the time. He played in the NBA. But they had a really good team. And we played them in Nebraska, in Omaha. And I remember one of the players said something about Omaha, like, where is Omaha? Like, who lives in Omaha? And so when we went there, the fans remember that. And it was almost like we had home court advantage because every time they touched the ball, they got booed. And during that year, they had a guy named Jerome Lane, played at Pittsburgh, who broke the basket in one of the games. He shattered the backboard. We were eventually supposed to meet that team, but they got upset by Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt, good team, but they did not really inspire fear in other teams like Pittsburgh. Right. And so they had Jerome Lane, Charlie Smith, and a couple other really good players. So we ended up playing against Vanderbilt, and by luck, in a sense, and their best player was a guy named Will Perdue. And so we thought, Will Perdue against Danny Manning, we'll take our chances with Danny. Right. So we beat Vanderbilt. You know what? I can't even remember, but we ended up playing against Kansas State in the Midwest Regionals. And they had Mitch Richmond, who I had the opportunity to play against multiple times that year because they were part of our conference. Right. You guys know Mitch Richmond played in the NBA for 12, 13 years, and they had beaten us once, I believe, during the season, and we had they'd beaten us twice. They beat us twice that year, and we met them in the Midwest Regionals, and it was a tough game, but we ended up winning that, and I had to guard Mitch. Every time we played them, I had to guard Mitch. We played them at their home arena. I want to say he had like 32 or something like that. I mean, he was unstoppable. So I kept that stat sheet, and I remember looking at it before the Midwest Regional game, and I said, Milt, whatever you do, you cannot let Mitch erupt for 30-plus points. Right. And with the help of my teammates, we kind of held him way below his average, but that was one of my better games. I think I had 20 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists in that game. Had a really good game, and we beat them to get to the Final Four. Just so happened the Final Four was in Kansas City, our backyard, so that's like a home game for us. And we played Duke in the semifinals. We had also played Duke prior to the NCAA tournament, and they beat us in overtime. But the way how they played defensively kind of fit how we played offensively. They like to overplay and pressure, and we, like, if you overplay and pressure us, we just release and go to the basket. So in that game, I remember we were up at least, I want to say 17, 18 points at one point in that game, and ended up winning that game against Duke to meet with Oklahoma in the finals. Oklahoma was another team, had beaten us twice during the year because they were in our conference, had Ricky Grace, Stacey King, Harvey Grant. Those are 3 pros right there. Had a great shooter and a guy named Dave Seeger. Had one of my hometown friends from Dunbar. They had a really powerful team. And that year, they were beating teams on average by 25 to 30 points a game. They were beating people by 30 points a game. Right. We knew them. There was no fear factor, and true story. So they like to run up and down and score a lot of points. Our offense was based around ball movement, cutting. throwing it into Danny, let him go to work. If they double team, he kicks it out, we shoot. So coach, we're starting the game, and coach says, guys, you know how they like to play. They like to run. Let's not play their game. Let's slow it down, make them play our game. And so he left the huddle, and we're on the starting five's on the floor. And Danny looks over at coach, and he says, guys, what coach just said, forget that. Let's run with them. And we ran with them, and halftime the score is 50-50. So we go back into the locker room. We come back out. Before coach leaves the huddle, he goes, all right, guys, you showed that you can play their game. Now let's see if we can play their game. We really need to slow this game down if we're going to have a chance to win this game. So he left the huddle, and the starting five's on the floor. And Danny says, guys, let's slow this game down because that's the only way we're going to win this game. And we slowed the game down, and they could not deal with it. I mean, they were in a rush to score. We came down, ran our sets, got really good shots, and ended up winning that game 83-79, and we were NCAA champions. So it was a great season, a little bit of luck involved, but also Danny would always say luck is when hard work meets opportunity, and I believe that. We worked hard that year, and we had the opportunity ahead of us, and everything worked out for us.
Now, that's an accomplishment that you cannot undermine. A lot of people don't understand. Well, in today's NCAA, at least, you have to win 8 straight games. You have to be undefeated. You have to go on a run and a string of games to actually win the NCAA tournament. So that is not something to be undermined at all. You have to be perfect when every other team is not perfect in the nation at that point. So winning the NCAA tournament is definitely a big accomplishment and well-deserved by anybody who reigns as the NCAA champion for that year.
Yes, and that's something that they definitely cannot take away from you. And I forgot to mention, during that tournament, I was all regional and all Final Four. So, you talk about accolades. I got more accolades in college than I did in high school. But at the end of the day, it was a team sport. Like I said, my teammates are my brothers to this day. We talk constantly, and it was a good experience doing it with those guys.
All right, so let's jump on into the NBA now. Were you able to get drafted, or how did you get your chance to participate in the NBA?
Well, actually, I did not get drafted. My year that I graduated was the first year that the NBA went from 8 rounds to 2. Wow. And I remember vividly. So I went on all these all my visits to these NBA teams, and to work out the Timberwolves' second year of existence, Cleveland Cavaliers, the Lakers. And I remember at the time, one of my mentors, Wayne Embry, first Black general manager in the NBA and NBA champion with the Boston Celtics, he had told my agent that they were going to draft me in the second round. And so I was kind of excited about that. And so the draft comes around, the first round go by, and the second round go by. And I'm thinking that I'm going to get drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they selected another player. I was kind of disappointed, but at that point, my mindset was to go to the team that best fit me in free agency. And so I went to the Lakers camp, and it's crazy how things happen. I'm in great shape, and I'm working out. And so I'm back in Lawrence a week before I go to a camp with the Lakers and playing pickup basketball. And one of my old teammates fell on my ankle and severely sprained my ankle.
Wow.
It was like really, really, really painful, excruciating pain. And so I'm thinking, I've got to get ready for camp. So I go through this intensive rehab for that entire week prior to me going to camp. And camp at that time was in Hawaii. So I go to camp, and I know in my mind that I'm not healthy enough to play. I could run north-south, but I couldn't run east-west. And so I'm running, and I try to make a cut. And as soon as I make a cut, boom, my ankle just gives out. I can't even go. And they kept me on for the entire time till I rehabbed. I was able to play in a couple games at the end where I was healthy enough to play, but there were too many other people that had more, they had more, a better feel with the team, and they were able to show Laker brass. Jerry West was the general manager. Pat Riley was the head coach. And so I played a couple really good games, but it wasn't enough to show them that I was worth keeping over some of the other guys that were healthy that went through the entire camp. And I can tell you what, I was really disappointed. I mean, you're talking about a young man, and this is how cold it is in the NBA. So that morning when they had to cut down the team to the number that it was supposed to be, you don't want to get that phone call early in the morning. So I'm in the hotel in Inglewood, California, and the phone rang, and the secretary says, "Hey, Milt, Coach Burtka wants to see you in his office." And automatically, I knew that I had gotten released. Right. So I went to the office. They told me that they were going to let me go. They told me to keep working at it. They liked my game, but I just didn't show enough for them to be able to say they wanted to select me over one of the other players. And as a grown man, I went back to that hotel room and bawled my eyes out, because it was like, that was a sting right there. Like, someone is telling you you're not good enough.
Right.
So got over that and decided that I was going to, get myself in really good shape. Went over to Europe, played a couple years, played in the CBA, the minor league, and could have still played when I decided I was going to hang up my sneakers. But my dad, the person that I call my dad, he's an entrepreneur, owned his own business. And he said, "Son, like, don't chase the NBA dream over in Europe." He goes, "Let's face it, if you're good enough, you're good enough. But if you're not good enough, you've got to start networking. You got to start thinking about life after basketball." Right. And I thought about that, took that to heart, and decided, like, okay, it's been like 3 years. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get my master's degree, which I did in sports administration. And I'm gonna join the adult world, and got my degree. And on day one, I said, I want to be a general manager in the NBA. I said, if I can't play in the NBA, I want to be a general manager in the NBA. Wow. And that was my goal. I started working towards that goal, putting myself in a situation to show people that I could be a good administrator. And it took me 24 years, talk about perseverance again, but it took me 24 years before someone was able to say, "We want you to be our general manager," and that was the Minnesota Timberwolves. But the draft, and I see a lot of guys right now that we interview for the draft. This thing is the draft. Because everyone is really good, and there's something could distinguish you from another guy. Mm-hmm. And we always say, like, if you're a little bit more talented than I am, but I'm more of a gentleman than you are, more of a person that has the characteristics that you're looking for, right? Chances are you're going to go with the guy that's a little bit less talented, that's not going to be a head case. And so there's so many different things that go into getting drafted besides talent. And, it's quite a process. But back when I came out, and when I went back when I went to grad school, I had a lot of my friends who I played against who made it to the NBA, was calling me and asking me, like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you going to grad school? Like you're right there." But, I just, after hearing my dad in my ear over and over again about just being prepared for life after basketball, I just kind of took that to heart and said, you know what? if I can't play, and maybe I didn't give myself enough opportunities to play, but what that told me was that playing in the NBA wasn't the end all be all for me. I knew that I could do something else, and I chose to do that. But the one thing is that I gave myself options by getting my degree.
And that's one thing we like to preach here at Live Wire Sports, that the end goal can be to make it to the NBA or professionally, but that shouldn't be your last option. You should always have a plan B. And like we say, what's better than working in sports if you can't play sports anymore? You're still around the game. You still get to show your passion for the game. So it's important to know that there's other things out there involved in sports other than actually playing the sport. And we want to get that out to our Live Wire student athletes that follow our page and are on our page often.
Yes. And just to also elaborate on that, that like when it comes to the NBA, the average career in the NBA, last time I checked, was like 4.8 years. That's the average career in the NBA. So after you play those 4.8 years, now your life is ahead of you. Like, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? Right. And I've actually had guys who I've played against that made the league. And when I got into working in sports, when they got done with their career, however short it was or whatever, called me for a job, saying, can I come and can I scout for you? Can I do this for you? And so those were players, while they did play in the league for a short time, they never really thought about life after basketball in terms of getting a degree or what have you. And so, I look at that sometimes and I'm like, wow, this is like, this journey is, this athletic journey is actually a very, very small part of your entire life. You're going to spend so much more of your life out of sports, out of playing sports, than you will in sports playing. And so for me, where I've ascended to now is a testament to my approach and how I looked at sports being a means to have a nice life for myself and my family, and to put myself in a situation where, I say, don't let sports use you, you use sports. There's too many of us that allow sports to use us. And then when we're done, we're discarded. You want to guard against that, because the ball will stop bouncing at some point, and you're going to have, God willing, a long life ahead of you. You got to be able to support yourself and do things for your family that, that you'd like to do.
Definitely. And I agree with that. That's my wording for when it comes to scholarships. You don't let the school use you to make the basketball team better without using them back to get a free education. So a scholarship should always be the number one option, so that the same way they're using you on the field, you can use them off the field to get that free education and set yourself up for life. Well, they only get 4 years from you. You have to take advantage of a good situation for yourself in that moment.
Yeah, Shaq, but also in regards to that too, like the one thing that I realized, so you go to college for 4 years, and I always when I go back and I talk to the young guys in the team, I said, look, so for those 4 years, you're the big man on campus. Everybody wants you to sign autographs. Everybody wants to take a photo with you. And then, so there's these little kids that adore you. They look up to you, and you can take it one of two ways. You can be a nice human being and reciprocate. If somebody wants an autograph, and maybe it might be like an inopportune time for you to sign an autograph. Maybe you're out to dinner or something like that. You're with your girlfriend or whatever. Just take that quick second to sign that autograph, because you never know that little kid who you're signing the autograph for. You don't know who his parents are. You don't know who his grandparents or her grandparents are. And I've had opportunities where after I graduated, and time to time when I go back to Lawrence, people remember how I treated them when I was there. And so they will bend over backwards to do anything for me. I go back to Lawrence, I ask for anything. People want to give it to me. Right. Quick story. So I went out of, when I graduated from graduate school, I had a gentleman that came up to me that was a alumni at the University of Kansas, alumnus at the University of Kansas, and he says, "Milt, I want you to come work for me." And I said, "Well, like, what do you do?" He said, "I own hotels." And in my mind, I was still wanting to be involved in basketball, and so I said, "I know nothing about the hotel business." He says, "You don't have to." He goes, "I own the hotels, and and I'd like you to come and work for me. I'll teach you how to manage a hotel, and hopefully one of these days, you can manage my hotels." That was real attractive, but my mind was still working in sports. And so I say all that to say that he told me he liked how I represented myself when I was an athlete. And there sometimes too many of us athletes, we let that big man on campus mentality go to our head, and we treat people in a way where, we wouldn't want to be treated. And people remember. So I know I have a lot of friends that go back and people don't even want to see them in that town or see them on that campus, because when they were on that campus, when they were playing for the university, they didn't treat people very nice. So you always got to remember, just be a nice human being to people, because you never know who's watching, you never know who's looking up to you, and it all comes back around.
No, that's well said. I definitely agree with that. You never know who's watching, just like our grandparents always used to tell us. You never know who's watching, and you never know who you can inspire just by being nice or having showing compassion, showing sympathy in that moment. So that's definitely great advice for our live wire followers right here today. Now, let's talk about your national team experience. Did you ever get to play for the national team here in the Virgin Islands?
Yes, I did. Well, the Pan American games, that was 1988, Indianapolis. And the one thing that I remember about playing in that, first of all, I was around all my homies and we had a good time. And, before we left for Indianapolis, we're all sitting and because, when you move away, sometimes and you're not around family members that cook how you grew up, I just remember being around them and, eating all the local foods, talking in a way where they can understand me and I can understand them. But the one thing that I remember about that team was the team that eventually won the Pan American Games. They beat the U.S. team, was the Brazilian team. They had the great Oscar Schmidt, and we played them. And if I'm not mistaken, we took them to overtime or we lost by 2 points. And for us, that was a big accomplishment because Brazil, their national team was like a powerhouse in the world. And so they went on to beat the U.S. And here comes, little old Virgin Islands giving them a run for their money and almost upset them. So that was really great, playing in those competitions and just being around, a lot of my fellow Virgin Islanders.
Now, who are, in your whole basketball career, who are some of the greatest players you got to play defense against?
Like I mentioned before, Mitch Richmond. Mitch was a bona fide scorer. We actually had a guy named LaFesta Rhodes played at Iowa State, and he was on the cover of Jet magazine at one point because he scored 50 points in a game, like 2 games in a row, something along that lines. Guy could really score. But back when I played, they brought the NBA as when you went into the NBA as a rookie. Back when I played, you went in as a man because it wasn't one and done. You spent 3-4 years in college. So when you came out, you knew how to play. You were physically ready to play. And all the guys that I played against, Jeff Grays, LaFesta Rose, Mitch Richmond, Derek Chivas, all those guys were players that eventually made the league, but were the top college players in college basketball. Playing against Duke, Danny Ferry and Billy King. I mentioned the guys from Oklahoma. Like every game you had bona fide scorers that were really good. And me playing that 2-guard position, small forward position, those were the best athletes. Playing against the guys from Kentucky, guys from Louisville, all those teams were stacked. And back then, college basketball it was just full of grown men that knew how to play.
Right. Now, did you ever get a chance to interact with any of those big Laker stars while you were there at training camp?
Most definitely. I mean, Kareem had just retired, and Kareem had just retired, and he was kind of soft-spoken at first. But the camp that I was with, Magic was on the team, Michael Cooper, James Worthy. So that was the team that had just won the championship. And I have so many stories about being in camp with those guys. One of the funniest stories was, like I said, we were in Hawaii and for training camp. And we get on the team bus to come back from practice. And Pat Riley is sitting in the first seat. And he had a box of popcorn. So Magic gets on the bus and Pat Riley gives him the box of popcorn and say, hey, look, share this with your teammates. So Magic is going back to his seat and he says, do you want popcorn? You want popcorn? But before you can answer, he keeps walking and he goes to the back of the bus. So none of us got popcorn. So Pat Riley looks back and see Magic eating the box of popcorn. And he says, Magic's nickname was Buck. He goes, hey, Buck, didn't I tell you to share that popcorn with your friends? And like all the rookies, we kept quiet. So Magic came up and he goes, what, you guys not going to say anything? All right, cool. So we get off the bus and he says, hey, tomorrow morning at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, I need for each and every one of you guys to come to my room. Practice doesn't start until 9 o'clock. And he wants us to come to his room at 4 o'clock. That's 5 hours that we're missing out on sleep. So everyone comes to my room and they say, hey, look, one person go to Magic's room. It was 4 of us and knock 4 times. So the rest of us can go back to sleep. But we decided that wasn't a good idea, that we all 4 of us needed to go to Magic's room. So we go to Magic's room, we all knock. He opens up the door and he says, hey, I'm just going to let you guys know, it's players against coaches. We got to stick up for each other. When Pat said what he said, you guys should have stuck up for me. You guys got that? We stick together. We said, yes. He goes, all right, go back to bed. But, even back then, Magic was all about the guys on the floor. Those are the guys that have to stick together. And that was his way of giving us a lesson. Like, no, when one guy gets attacked or whatever, everybody has his back. So that was a really good story and a really good lesson for all of us.
Now, can you give me your best stat line for your best game of your career playing basketball?
29 points, 8 rebounds, maybe 3 or 4 assists. But I've had games like when we played against Kansas State in the Midwest regions. I mean, 27-7 is a good stat line. It was actually good enough to be CBS player of the game, but that went to somebody else. But the most points I've ever scored in a college game was 29 points. And like I said, back in the day, it was called the Big 8 Conference. You had grown men, you had great coaches, Hall of Fame coaches. And so to score 29 points in a college game at that level, to me, that was a big accomplishment.
Now, I want you to talk to me a little bit about this basketball court that is named after Milt Newton. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, you ask about the accomplishment of winning an NCAA championship. That's a great accomplishment. But my greatest accomplishment as, a person that has played sports for a lifetime is actually getting the court that I grew up on named after me. And that was the best. I had my family down. My mom and my dad came down. The whole Bordeaux community was there. People that I grew up with. I saw Azik earlier came on. That's my man. I used to look up to Azik when I was younger. Azik could play, but so one of my childhood friends, one of my really good friends, Bordeaux represent. One of my childhood friends, Delvin Duggins. We used to call him Cha-Cha Man, but that's my guy. And so he worked for Senator Graham at the time, and they saw it fit because of my accomplishments on the professional level as an executive, my accomplishments as a player, in college basketball, winning a championship. They saw it fit to put forth an effort to have the court renamed after me. And it went to the Senate and was approved. And when they told me that happened, man, it made me really happy because, I remember my mom, Cleopatra Newton, when, we kind of grew up latchkey kids, mom's working, it's four of us. And she says, like, when you come home from school, I need you to go home. I need you to stay home. I need you to get your homework done and get ready for school. So me personally, I would come home, eat, and go right up on the on the basketball court. Now the basketball court was right above my home, and so I had the home where people used to throw rocks on our roof all the time, and so there was a little path to come from my home up to the court. So I would do that, and that's back when, we can turn off the lights. I would be on the basketball court till 11:30 at night. And you're talking about a kid that's in the 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. My mom knew where I was, but every time when I came down from being on the basketball court that late, one or two things happen. Either I get a whooping or I go to bed without eating dinner. But that's something that happened consistently. And so the fact that Tito my homies putting up some messages on the screen, but it was an honor, it was a privilege for me to have that honor bestowed upon me, and that's like part of the legacy that I want to leave, for all young Virgin Islanders. Like, it doesn't matter, like how you grow up, doesn't matter if you didn't have much when you were growing up. I tell you what, when I was a kid growing up, I had one pair of shoes, and I used to do everything in those shoes. Going down that hill, going into the Border community, and trying to stop a bike with no brakes. Yeah, you use your feet to do that. So, having holes in your shoes and things like that doesn't really matter. What matters is what's inside of you and whether or not you're willing to persevere. Set goals and fight to accomplish those goals. Hail up, CB. That's what that taught me. Growing up in the islands, that's what that taught me. It taught me to never give up. It taught me to fight. It taught me to despite waiting 24 years where other people would have given up, wait 24 years to finally realize my dream of becoming a general manager. And so, but to have that court, renamed after me, huge accomplishment. And I wish that my mom was there at the time. I know she was looking down on me because that playground caused me a lot of grief as a kid growing up. Grief from getting those whoopings because I was not, following direct orders to stay where I was supposed to stay after school.
Right. And interesting fact, I also grew up in a Border community, so I played on that basketball court my entire life as well. And I was actually in attendance when the court was named in your honor.
Yes. And the one thing that we promised that we're still working on is to renovate not only the playground but the entire park. And that's something that we're continuing trying to. COVID kind of threw a little chink in that armor right there, but we're still working on doing that. And, that's something that will happen. That's a promise from Emerald Gems Foundation. That will happen eventually.
Definitely. We do look forward to that. Actually, Milt, we're going to take a short break here and hear some from our sponsors. And we'll be right back with more Between the Lines presented to you by Livewire Sports.
All right.
I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa, effort, I'm built for bond ready. Whoa, whoa, effort, I'm built for bond ready.
All right, and we are back with more Between the Lines presented to you by Livewire Sports. We are here with our special guest, Mr. Milt Newton. Milt, you still here with us?
Yes, I am. Happy to be here.
All right. Let's
say. I want to say real quickly. During the break, I was reading a lot of the comments, and I just want to let my peoples know that I appreciate them, and I would not be here without them, especially in my upbringing. And I take this really serious. In terms of being a role model for Virgin Islands youth, because like when I go back to camps, what I always say is that when I look out into the crowd or when I look on the court, when the kids are in a circle, like I see me when I was their age. And I always stress to them that like, if I can make it to this level, you can too, and try to give them, ways to set goals and attain those goals. And so, I do consider myself a role model. And just like myself and my family coming back to the islands every summer to give back, hopefully people can follow that trend and come back and share, their expertise.
Definitely. We have a lot of those people here in our community, but we always are welcoming more. Anybody that wants to give back to the youth of the Virgin Islands, especially because we want them to grow up to be productive citizens and role models as well. So the time that we invest into them, they're going to put back into the community as well. So we have to invest into our youth and show them that there's a way to be a good person in your community and give back as well. So we can keep this cycle going of good Virgin Islands people giving back to our community.
Yes. I definitely believe in that way of thinking. I think the more and more we grow, a lot of times we can't do it on our own, and we have people that help us along the way. And I think it's very important for us to come back and give back and help others, attain those dreams that they have just like we did.
Definitely. We're going to jump back into your career here. We want to hear your exact title. What is your career right now?
My title is the assistant general manager of the Milwaukee Bucks. And if you guys haven't noticed, today we re-signed, we extended Giannis Antetokounmpo, the league's MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. So we're really excited about that. Today is a great day in our organization. And it's a great day because what it shows is that when you develop a culture that is conducive to winning, that is about family, that's about doing the right thing, that's about loyalty, and it gets rewarded, it's a great feeling. There's a lot of times when you have players that you've kind of helped to groom and they move on to bigger or different pastures when things get really good. But, Giannis and his upbringing and the type of person that he is, he told us that, hey, look, this is where I want to be. You guys have treated me and my family like gold since day one. And we were rewarded with that today with him signing the extension. So we're happy about that.
That is great news for the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, question before we move on from this. How tall is Giannis to you, really? Is he taller over you?
Oh, no, Giannis is 6'11". He's 6'11".
So that's about 4 or 5 inches, 6 or 7. How much is that? More than you?
Oh, taller than me?
Yes.
7.
Ooh. All right, so he's making you look like a little brother in all the pictures, doesn't he?
Well, put it like this. I don't know if it makes me look like a little brother. It makes me look shorter.
All right, so how long have you been in this field as a general manager?
Well, I in this role, I'm the assistant GM. This is my 3rd season. And prior to this, I was with the Minnesota Timberwolves for 3 seasons as the general manager. But as the assistant GM with the Bucks, this is my I'm going into my 3rd season. No, I'm going into my 4th season.
Yeah, you got to remember, the bubble just finished. We're starting a new season now.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I mean, with everything stopped abruptly and started up really quick, but we're all in the same boat. All 29 other teams are in the same boat. And, we just have to get better every day. And, we do feel like we have a team and the personnel to get back to the playoffs and maybe the 1 or 2 seeds or what have you, but to advance this year. 2 years ago, we got to the Eastern Conference Finals. This year, because of the bubble and COVID, social unrest, social injustices, and all that thing, and all that is going on in the States and in the world, really took a toll on us and all the other teams in the bubble. But we plan to get back to that level next year and hopefully advance.
Now, what made you choose this particular field? I know you said you wanted to stay in the sports world, but what made you decide I want to be a GM?
Well, a GM is the highest in this line of work. Mm-hmm. Being able to work with your peers, work with people to put together a product, to put together a team, to compete. And it's almost like competing in a sense, because when you're part of a team as a player, you work together, you set a goal, you work together, and you want to win. It's the same thing with being in management. You have people that work with you, different departments, and you want to put the best possible team to compete against other teams. And that's the competition part of it. Going, making trades, doing drafting the right players to put the specific team that you want in place and seeing how your team stack up against other teams. And so it's competition in a sense. And, I've been around basketball my entire life, and this just seems like it was the most logical transition.
Now, was there ever a point in time where you felt like, I'm not good enough for this, I can't work this out, and you wanted to quit on this career path?
I've never, ever felt like that. As I mentioned before, if I had felt like that, I would have quit, before 24 years came to fruition. And so I've never, ever felt like that. And, I really mean this when I say this. Growing up in St. Thomas, being a Virgin Islander, we don't quit. Hey, I was watching the other day something on YouTube about boxing hardest hitters, boxing knockout champions, and who shows up and who's all over the place but Julian Jackson. Like, right. Virgin Islanders, we don't give up. We keep fighting. And so that's the mentality that I had as a kid leaving the islands and coming to the States. And it's one that I try to instill in my kids. You may get knocked down, but you can't stay down. You have to get back up. And that's the mentality that I have. And I've never, ever thought about quitting. This is the career that I chose. This is the career that I love. And that has never once, entered my mind.
Now, as the assistant general manager for an NBA team, what are some of your day-to-day responsibilities? What's a regular day like for Milt Newton during the season?
Making sure the GM doesn't mess up. No, actually, I think it's all encompassing. Like, when people, when they talk about management, you got to understand, like, these athletes are human beings first. They're people. And so when people think general managers and assistant GM, they think maybe free agency and the draft, which is, the most important part of your job, putting together a team that can win, because the guys that own the basketball team, they want to win. And if you're making moves that aren't leading the team in that direction, you will be replaced. And so I love my job. And so in terms of evaluating players, those are things that we have to be on top of. But away from the basketball, this organization is just like any Fortune 500 company. You got to deal with people. You got to deal with emotions. You got to learn how to motivate people. You got to learn how to encourage people. Like I said, players are human beings as well. So you may have a player that may come into the office one day and having problems at home, and it spills over into the basketball court. So we all have relationships with our players where we talk about life. Doesn't necessarily mean we talk about basketball all the time. We talk about life. So during this phase of you being with us and us being together, I get to know you real intimately. And so if I see you're having a bad day, or, you've had a couple bad games, my job is to come to you and ask, like, hey, what's going on? And us having a relationship where you can share with me what's going on. There are a lot of teams out there, believe it or not, that don't have conversations with their players, don't know how to talk to their players. It's strictly management and players. And we found that if you have genuine relationships with your players, you try to build a culture that exhibits family, caring for each other. If you remember earlier, I talked about we players over me players. It's the same thing with staff members, people you don't mind working with, because we spend most of our waking hours around the people that we are around at work. And so, just helping to manage the team. And there's a lot of things that can go wrong. You read about a lot of players getting in trouble off the court, and just staying on top of things like that, making sure that we put the right pieces of the team together, bringing the right pieces in the locker room. There's little things that can really disrupt an organization and disrupt a team. And we have to be really careful and astute as to what we're doing to make sure that everything fits together as efficiently as possible. And, but those are some of the things. There are administrative work that needs to be done. The league sends out a lot of memos and and protocols in place for things to be done a certain way that if they aren't done, there's a chance that your team could be fined millions of dollars. And, I don't want to be responsible for our team having to pay $1 million or so because something that I was supposed to do from an administrative standpoint never got done. So this is a business we're running, and it just so happens that, the main product is guys on the floor competing and entertaining our fans.
Now, we know that administrators sometimes don't get to always watch the games and stuff like that. How often do you get to attend your games?
I attend every one of our games on the road or at home. I travel with the team. And see, one thing about that is, like, when I travel on the road, I pretty much take my office with me on the plane or in the hotel. And so I work from the road. I have my laptop. I'm doing what I need to do. I'm answering phone calls from other, team executives. And the reason there are some executives that travel with the team and some don't. When I first started out with the Washington Wizards, we did not travel with the team as much.
Right.
With this team, we travel with our team every game. And because there are different situations that you want to head off before things get out of hand. And so if you're there to not get something third party, but to see it for yourself, you have a better idea of how to deal with the situation. But every team does it differently. When I was with the Minnesota Timberwolves, I traveled half the time with the team, but then the other half, I had to go out and scout college games. So, but for us and how we do things, my boss and I, our general manager, we travel every road trip with the team.
All right. Now, as honest as you can be and as much information as you can give, how was the NBA bubble for you?
Well, actually, the NBA bubble was great for me because I didn't go. The NBA had put protocols in place in terms of how many people were in the bubble. Each team had 35 possible spots that they could have in the bubble. That's including players and coaching staff. And how we looked at it is the people that we thought were essentials were the ones that should have been in the bubble. So with our team, our coaching staff, our entire medical staff took up most of the spots, and we only had one executive there in the bubble, and that was our general manager. At one point, he asked if I wanted to come to the bubble, and I told him I declined because, one, I was able to spend more time with my family than I had in a long, long time. And I tell people this, I mean, it was really amazing for me to be around, my son and my daughter and my wife, but I saw my son grow 5 inches this past summer. So a lot of you that have seen my son at camp, that little guy, he's in the background right there. That little guy is no longer a little guy, but I saw him grow 5 inches this summer, and I would not have experienced and witnessed that if I was in the bubble. My boss was in a bubble for an extremely long time away from his family, and with COVID and all that stuff, I just felt it was better for me and my family to stay away from the bubble. But from what I heard, it was monotonous. It was like Groundhog Day. Guys got up and did the same thing every day. And but give credit to the NBA and give credit to the players to be steadfast in doing what they were supposed to do to stay safe. I'm told that the bubble was probably the safest place in the United States because between the testing and making sure that players and staff members and everyone else around the league was doing what they were supposed to do to keep the bubble safe, I heard everyone bought in, and it was definitely very successful.
All right, now with your son growing 5 inches over the summer, the Bucks might have another Giannis in the farm system right now.
Or they might have the first Miles Newton.
Hey, that too.
Yeah, he loves basketball, but he's a very accomplished swimmer, one of the best in the state at his age level. And so, but he's itching to be strictly basketball. But for right now, we'd rather him continue to do both. We were told in terms of a swimmer that he could be a national team talent if he stuck with it. Because I got to admit, at first I wanted him to play basketball from the beginning, and then when we decided that we wanted him to just be a kid and play sports, and he eventually started swimming, he is really, really, really good. I have no doubt if he sticks with swimming, he could probably swim in the Olympics for the U.S. Virgin Islands or the U.S. team if he's good enough for that. But he is definitely that caliber of talent at this early age.
That would be a great thing to see, to have a young swimmer here representing for the Virgin Islands. That would be great.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think we need to do here in the Virgin Islands for sports to prosper and to get to that next level?
Well, I mean, with everything else, the economics is very important. Like right now, we have so many things that are pulling at our youth. And one of the reasons why, Emerald Gems, we try to come back every year and we do the basketball camps because we want to give those youth an alternative. And I believe with sports, if you get associated with a sport and you love it to the point where you really love it and you would do anything to be involved with that sport, that could be the difference between you choosing that sport over gang banging, over robbing, over doing drugs, or any of the ailments that our youth suffer right now. So sports is the pull. And I believe if we can have, facilities, all the different sports where our youth can go and spend time and hone their skills, I think that's the thing that for me would be really, really important, because they just want an opportunity. Excuse me. And they also want, as a kid growing up, I just wanted people to notice me, hey, look at me. And so when we go back, that's what we try to do. We try to love up on our kids. We try to hug them. We try to let them know that they're important, that we care about them. And I think just those type of interactions can really change, someone's mindset from thinking I'm not worth anything, or no one cares about me, to no, I am loved. People care about me. People want to see me succeed. So those are the type of things that I believe can help, youth, in any place. If a youth feel like there's no way out of a dire situation, then they in a sense kind of give up. And we want to give hope. That's what our foundation does. It gives hope, utilizing sports and providing positive experiences for our VI youth. And but I think the economics, and I understand times are tough, but it's like the teachers, right? The teachers are underpaid, but they're the ones that's grooming the next billionaire, the next millionaire, the next entrepreneur. And so I think the fundamentals are really, really important. If you want to keep our youth off the street, if you want to keep our youth from abusing drugs, if you want to keep our youth from, out of prisons, give them something to concentrate on, when they're youth. Give them something that grabs their imagination, that they say, what, if I can do this or I can do this, I'd rather do this because this is what I love to do. We got to give them options. And
right.
You take away those options, then they fall by the wayside and get caught up in the things that they shouldn't be involved in. So, as I said before, if we can just invest in our youth, whether it's sports or, these STEM programs or whatever, give them something to do, give them another alternative to doing all those negative things that happen and that they're susceptible to when they're that age.
No, that's a great way to look at it. And I think we are moving in that direction, hopefully, and it will be monumental when we get there, to give those children that opportunity to get away from whatever bad paths that are out there, and to get them into something that they love and they are passionate about. That we know if we support them, they're gonna come back to the community. They're gonna give back to that same community once we support them with enough love, enough compassion, enough opportunities for them to grow.
Yes, I definitely believe that. But if you don't have an opportunity, if you don't have situations that you can another alternative, then you may not be strong enough to resist the pull of someone that's more mentally mature than you to say, hey, look, why don't you come over here and do this? But you have that thing that you really love, you can kind of steer clear of that, and go to your local, playground, YMCA or whatever, and hone your skills if that's the sport that you love.
Definitely. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the community events that Emerald Gems has done here in the Virgin Islands with us.
Mm-hmm. Well, besides this year would have been our 6th annual basketball camp. And the one thing, when we first put our foundation together, one of the things that we were told is that if people want to take your foundation seriously and invest in your foundation, you have to show consistency. This would have been our sixth basketball summer camp. And so, God willing, we'll be back next year once everything dies down with COVID and all that other stuff. We'll be back next year to put on, our 6th year in terms of basketball camp. But Emerald Gems have also done, like I said before, we want to provide positive experiences. When I was with the Minnesota Timberwolves, we were fortunate to partner with some companies to host 6 students from the Virgin Islands and chaperones from St. Thomas and St. Croix. And the prerequisite was, one, they had to have, my wife Shalon, she's probably going to be upset with me if I don't remember specifically the GPA, but you had to have, I want to say, a 3.5 or a 3.6 GPA. You had to have had do community service. You had to write an essay on why we should choose you, and also get recommendations from your teachers and from your community leaders. And so based off of that, we were able to select 6 students, and we had 4 chaperones that came with them. Delvin was one of them. Senator Graham was another that came up, and we had a week-long excursion. Now, everything that we did that week was free. There was no charge to the student, just like there's never been a charge to any of our campers. And so they came up for that week. Some of the things that we did was we partnered with Sun Country Airlines. So we took them to Sun Country Airlines company, and they saw from A to Z how you run an airline company. They got to get in the cockpit in the plane. We took them to Black radio station. They did mock interviews. We took them to the University of Minnesota, where they met and had like a day where they met with some of the professors and talked about some of the degrees that they would like to earn. They went to, I want to say, two Wizards. I work for the Wizards as well. 2 Minnesota Timberwolves basketball games. They met some of the players. We had this thing called Taste of the Timberwolves, where they were able to taste some of the different foods that would be served during the season. We had so much fun. We put them up in one of the better hotels in the city of Minneapolis. We had so much fun getting to know them getting to know us. And one of the things also that we explained to them is, when you see a basketball arena, when you see a basketball team, it's not just players running up and down shooting hoops. There's a whole business behind those walls. So we expose them to people in our graphics department, our trainers, our sales department, our marketing department. They got to see how we run a basketball team in terms of putting teams together. And so it was one big education, weekly educational summit for them. And I want to say at the end of the week, they were definitely they understood that a basketball team is more than a basketball team. It's a business. And like me, if you by chance were not good enough or you didn't make it to play in that sport, you can still be around that sport behind the scenes, helping to make that organization go. So, that's one of the things that we did. Recently, back in January, Calvert White at the Sports Park and Rec told us that of the need for some of the public schools to have need basketballs. And so we got with some friends and donated 150 basketballs between the 3 islands. And that was a joy for us to do. And then coming up, I want to say in a few days, well, not in a few days, in about 7 days or so, we will be donating 400 turkeys to people amongst the islands, and that's something that we wanted to do for Thanksgiving, but the timing was a little off, and my wife Shalon and I have been working on that. Anything that we can do to give back to the Virgin Islands, to give back to our youth, we're always ready and to do that, because we feel it's our responsibility to do that. That's where I'm from. People from the Virgin Islands, people from Bordeaux, St. Thomas has always supported me, has always followed my career, and that's love. That's love. And so for me and my family, our legacy is to be one of the Virgin Islanders that has given back the most to our people. And we just see our foundation giving us that opportunity to continue to do that for years to come. And hopefully, as we get more people involved with our foundation financially, we can do bigger and better things and just really give back and give hope to a lot of our youth.
Definitely. And we are proud of the work that Emerald Gems is doing here in the Virgin Islands. We definitely are keeping an eye out for those events that you guys are doing and have coming up. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more about the turkey giveaway? I'm sorry.
Yes. So we're actually in the process right now of my wife is putting together a flyer. We've contacted some of the local churches back home. Right now, it's logistically seems like it might be tough for us to involve St. Croix, because getting the turkey over there on like one of those freezer boats is harder than we anticipated. So hopefully we can include them if we can't get that done shortly, but it'll be between St. Thomas and St. John's. And so what's happening is that I know my wife Shalon is on the comment. She's on the comment feed right now, so she's kind of feeding me some information. But honey, if you can try to tell me, I forgot the name of the grocery store we're working with. But we're working with a local grocery store, Plaza Plus, I believe. I can't really remember.
Extra?
Plaza Extra. Plaza Extra, kind of same thing. But working with them to give out and donate the turkeys. We're going to have specific areas along on the island where people can go with a ticket that they will receive from one of the churches that will be giving out the tickets. Because what you don't want is people coming, to an area that's waiting for a turkey. If you have a ticket, you'll be able to get a turkey. And so working with my wife said you can visit the website at www.emeraldgemsfoundation.com for participating organizations. But
that's your wife, Milt.
Yeah, and she said the Market St. Thomas is the new name of Plaza Extra. So we're working with them to give out the turkeys. But as I mentioned, we just decided and thought that it would be great, especially given the times that we're going through. A lot of people struggling, to make ends meet and things like that. So we just thought, hey, we weren't able to do a basketball camp this year. We were able to give away basketballs. Let's continue to do whatever we can to help in some way. And so we thought a turkey giveaway would be best. But more information is coming soon. And if you can go to our website, you can find out a little bit more about, how to go about doing that.
All right. So Livewire fans and followers, please go over to emeraldgemsfoundation.com for more information on the turkey giveaway this Christmas. All right, Milt. So you survived our interview portion, but you're not off the hook yet. All right. We got a little interactive game coming up for you. Okay. It's going to bring you home a little bit, make you think a little bit, and see how well you are with choosing options. All right. This game is called. Go ahead.
And Shaq, and before we go on, we partnered with Officer Bobby Thomas's office in regards to the turkey giveaway as well.
All right. So
make sure I said that.
Senator Bobby Thomas, again, your wife is saving you. This is great. Very lucky. All right, so let's go on to our this or that segment. Now, some of these choices, I'm definitely not going to agree with you. Some of them I will.
Okay.
But you know my facial reaction, so we'll be fine.
Okay.
All right, this or that. NCAA championship or NBA MVP? Which would you prefer?
You mean for me personally?
Very unbiasedly.
Honestly, it would have to be NCAA championship. And I tell you why.
Go ahead.
Why? Because when you're fighting in the trenches with guys, you want to celebrate with them. Goes back to that we versus me mentality. I have a we mentality.
All right, that's a great answer, and you can't really put a limit on the happiness that you receive from an NCAA tournament. An MVP, you kind of thank your friends, your family, those people. But an NCAA championship is a collection of men or women that do it together. Like, that's a bond you guys are going to share forever. You said already that those are a lot of your best friends right now. So you can see how that bond continues on after your college days.
Definitely. It's unbroken.
All right. Losing your memory or not being able to create new ones?
Losing your memory. Not being able to create new ones.
All right, you got to give me an explanation for that one.
Well, because the reason why is to this point, I have a lot of memories that bring me happiness, memories that bring me joy. And so those are things that are important to me that I want to hold on to. Like, say, for instance, if I were to lose the memory of the birth of my first kid, my daughter Shania, that would be devastating, So, or the memory of when I first met my wife in college, that'd be devastating. So I would say holding on to memories as opposed to creating new ones.
I definitely agree with that. Very good answer. All right, bungee jumping or skydiving?
Ooh. I'll probably go with skydiving.
Why skydiving?
Well, because it's an ultimate thrill, and with bungee jumping, you're being held together by the cord. Mm-hmm. When you jump out of a plane, if you know how to do it correctly, it's just basically you and air, and you are at the whim of knowing what you're supposed to do. So I'd rather have that extreme thrill than bungee jumping.
Well, whatever you choose to do, I will meet you back at the starting point. I'm not doing either. All right, it is the holidays, so let's get into some holiday stuff. Sweet bread or tart?
By the way, I sent away to, and I'm giving her some pub. I don't even know her, but I sent away to the tart lady in Atlanta and ordered 2 guavas and 1 pineapple tart. But if you had to ask me, I'll probably go with sweet bread, man. My grandma used to make the best.
Whoa.
You never had my grandma's sweet bread, man.
I cannot believe you did all of that to choose sweet bread. That's impossible.
Gotta have it. Gotta have it.
All right, so if we talking talk now, pineapple or guava?
Guava.
All right, I might have to get rid of you really quickly, Milt. You're doing pretty bad this thing, man. All right, coquito or eggnog?
Well, we don't make eggnog per se, so I'm gonna have to go the other route. You know, that's like a local thing.
Right.
I'm gonna have to go that route.
Yeah, the eggnog thing is really more of a stateside thing, so we definitely go with coquito on this side over here for sure.
Yeah, we have our own thing.
All right, passion fruit or sorrel?
Woo! Passion fruit all day, every day.
Right, that one was like no choice at all. That was a simple one. That was a giveaway, honestly.
All day, every day.
All right, Johnny cake or pate?
Oh my gosh! Can you combine them both?
Definitely not.
Johnny cake or pate? No, that's hard. That's hard. I'm gonna have to say Johnny cake.
All right, and we talking the Johnny cakes with a slit in the middle, right? The Gucci link Johnny cakes.
Oh, most definitely.
All right, gotta make sure.
Every time we come back in the summertime, before we leave, we get some from across from the airport. We take them back. Gotta have them.
Definitely. Now this is the part where it gets pretty intense. You might have some fans and followers that definitely don't take your side. Some will take your side. So tread lightly with these options, okay?
All right.
Cookie Point or Limburg Bay?
Limburg Bay all day. I grew up on that beach, so I got to stick with that.
All right. So I think that's an ode to where you live, the part of the island you live. You know,
True.
You kind of want to go to Cookie Point anyways. You live Bodo, so
yeah,
that's kind of a giveaway too. Limburg Bay.
Put Megan's Bay in there, I would have chose Megan's Bay.
Ah, okay. Definitely. Megan's Bay for the win. I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. Here's another one. Very personal. Griffith Ballpark or McBean?
Wow. I'm going to have to go with Griffith.
All right. Now, why are you choosing Griffith?
Well, when I went to Wayne Aspinall, which is Cancun, I had to walk by there every day to go to Savant to my grandmother's house. So that was the court that I frequent. And Tito know about this. I won my first scoring trophy at Griffith Park.
All right, memories definitely locked in at Griffith Ballpark.
Yeah.
All right, and for the king of all kings, the choice of all choices. Now, you didn't go to either, but Charles Tamale or Udaraken?
Oh my gosh.
There we go.
That's a tough one because we hold our camp at Udaraken. So, if I stayed on the islands, I probably would have went to Charlotte O'Malley. I don't know if Jenny Matthias is watching. I hope she let me come back next summer.
We're gonna take that as a vote for Charlotte O'Malley.
I didn't give a vote.
You were kind of like riding a fine line there. You might have opted to go private school, didn't you? You probably would have, just to stay on the safe side.
Hey, we tried All Saints, and I didn't really like the fact that I could gotten my mouth washed out with soap, so that didn't work too well.
All right, so you survived our this or that segment barely, very, very barely, but you survived. Mm-hmm. Now we have some interesting stuff here for you to see. Now, pictures are the best memories a person can have. It shows how you were before, and it can show the changes that have been made throughout life. So here, we have some pictures for you. And I want you to tell me something about these pictures, whether it's what you were thinking about at the moment, what's happening in the moment, or just laugh at the fact that these pictures are actually even here. Okay. So we have some pictures that we're gonna pull up for you, and we wanna see your reaction. So we're gonna start right here with the pictures.
Oh, that's buckets right there. That guy that I'm shooting over, that's Eric White. We grew up together in DC. I remember that game. I had my number that game. I had 21 that game.
Now, you sure the shot went in?
Definitely.
We might have to go down into the vault for live wire and find the game film for this and prove that he made this shot.
Uh,
To the next picture.
Championship game, Dave Seeger. He was a tough guard. I think he had like 3 threes in that game. But I didn't miss a shot in that game, so that's a good memory right there.
All right. While we're looking at these pictures, I'm noticing a common theme here. And I'm not going to call you old, but all these pictures are in black and white.
Yeah. They used to be in color.
All right, let's move on to the next picture. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, BMA Holiday Classic. Took me like 45 minutes for that to do that. That was an ad for a Christmas tournament that our team played in, and they wanted me to dunk this basketball with a ribbon on it. I want to say that rim right there was probably like 9 feet high, and it took me like 45 minutes for them to get it. They had to spray me down with water and put like baby oil on me and stuff like that. That was a lot of fun.
So you're a basketball player, a GM, and a model. All right, you're all in one. We have bookings for Milt Newton whenever we have a model agency looking for it.
I had the flat top going.
Moving on. What's this?
Grand Rapids Hoops, the CBA, which stands for Come Back Again. That was the team that I played with after I got let go by the Lakers. What I realized is that professional sports, especially minor league sports, is nothing like college. In professional sports, everybody is for themselves. Funny story. So in the CBA, you get tested for smoking weed, and I could have a different roommate like every other week. And so I had this one roommate. One of the guys on our team got cut, and so they brought another player in, and he was my roommate. And I wake up one morning to the odor of some weed, and so I go to him and I go, "Hey, they drug test," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm good." 3 days later, he was gone.
He thought he was good.
3 days later, he was out of there.
All right, and I like the haircut here. It's not so Dr. J-ish, but more like David Robinson.
Well, yeah, that was back in the day when they had the flat top was the thing to wear. So,
all right, moving on to the next picture.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna laugh at that one. That's when I was in Australia. Played there for a season and had a great time. Never been to Australia. Had a great time there. Got to meet a lot of really good friends and made some good friends. Yeah, that was a good time. Played for the Melbourne Magic. And matter of fact, I sustained an injury late in the season. And with a lot of teams, once you get injured, like they're not going to let you hold a spot and take up a spot. So I decided I was going to come back to the States. They brought someone else in, and that year they won a championship. They forgot to send me my ring, though.
So you never got it?
No.
Do we need to make a phone call?
Yeah, look, I've gotten quite a few rings since then, so I'll just keep that as a good memory.
There you go. All right, let's move on to the next picture.
Yeah, that's the same team, Melbourne Magic. We used to play in the tennis center where they play the Australian Open, where the top opens up to let the natural light in, and I had a good time. Like I said, got to meet a lot of players, and you talk about modeling. I even made a commercial when I was there, so that was a lot of fun. That was
definitely find that commercial and put it in the Livewire archives. Definitely.
I guarantee you won't find it.
Now, what's interesting to me is these uniforms look a lot like the NBA uniforms. That looks like a Bulls uniform that you're wearing, actually, and the other guy looks like he's wearing Atlanta
Hawks. Yeah. They would try to mimic. They would try to mimic a lot of the uniform styles and designs.
All right, then. Let's move on to the
I had guns back then.
Let's move on to the next picture.
Oh!
Whoa. What is this?
Yeah. That was look at that mustache, man. That was back in the day during one of our exhibition games. And if you notice correctly, you could put a plate on that head. That thing was flat.
All right, I'm telling you, like, you might have to go back to this hairstyle right here. Bring back the 80s. 90s, actually, right?
I probably could do that, but I don't know if I can bring back the mustache.
We'll take one, not both. All right, before we move on to this next picture, I have a very, very important question for you.
Okay.
Who is the greatest player to ever wear number 23?
23?
Yes.
Oh, you know me, man. I'm an MJ guy.
All right, so you think MJ, some people think LeBron, but I think this guy might be the best person to ever wear number 23.
Hey, I didn't know you were going there. Hey, you know what? I wanted 21, right? I wanted 21. That was my number. But Michael Cooper had 21. So I said, I'll just go with 23.
No, this is a Lakers 23. The Lakers just won the championship. I hope LeBron called you and asked to wear 23 before he got there.
I didn't get that phone call. I didn't get that phone call.
Better luck next year.
Yes.
All right, let's move on.
Hey, that's my family. That's my wife, Shalon. Shania, my firstborn, my boo-boo, my love. And that's little Miles, who is Miles by my ear right now. He's grown so much, but that's the group that makes it go, make me go, and yeah, love those guys.
Now, what year was this picture from?
Ooh, you know what? Let me see. Maybe 26, probably our first year. So maybe 2015. Yeah.
Do you remember where this picture was?
Where?
Yes.
Oh, it was in the hallway at Eudora-Ken, in the hallway outside the basketball gym.
All right, definitely good memories in this picture right here.
Yeah, my son is like, he's up on my ear now. He's only 13.
We got a long way to go.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next picture. Oh, your wife saving you again, Milt. She said it was 2015.
Well, I did say 2015.
All right, so let's see. What do we have here?
Actually, giving away. Well, with our basketball camps, we try to, give the campers a lot of swag. Whether it's a backpack filled with, shoes, basketball. They get socks, jerseys, and shorts. NBA issued giveaways, and so that was just a picture of me. Giving away a basketball to one of our campers, because they also get a basketball, each and every one of them.
All right, so this is definitely important memories here. I'm sure that those children enjoy that camp every year. And just the fact that you're giving back to the community, you're an important person to them. Just because you give your time to come back and be with them every summer, you definitely are a role model and idol to a lot of these young men here in the Virgin Islands.
Yes, I don't take that lightly. In regards to our camp, I could come back and just do a basketball camp and not, give any gear to the kids. But, as a kid growing up, like I didn't have a basketball. I had one basketball and played with that thing so much where the skin started peeling off. But I know some of these kids, don't come from means, and, it's great for them to receive a brand new pair of basketball shoes, or, a basketball or a backpack filled with stuff. Not that they need it, But I think it's a great thing, just to let them know how we feel about them, because these are all things that, we have to go out and try to solicit from these different companies. And the fact that a lot of them have bought into what we're trying to do and willing to support us, every year we go back, I always try to make sure that we can, send the kids home with, with stuff that they can use for the rest of the year.
Right. And again, we definitely thank you for the part that you play as a role model and the giving back that you do in our community. Definitely thank you for that.
You're welcome.
We're going to move on to the next picture. What is this?
Yeah, that was after the Milt Newton Summer Basketball Clinic that my guy Delvin started and involved us with it. They saw fit to give us an award for what we've done and what we've continued to do. So they had a parade that led up to the gym, and this was the Summer Classic is about bringing different players from different parts of the island and having them play together, so they can see that just because you're from the East or you're from the West or you're from up north or from town or whatever, basketball brings us all together. And it's not about, I'm from this set and you're from this set. We believe if we put you all on the team together, you'll see that y'all have more in common than you have differences. And so the Summer Basketball Clinic, which Delvin has started and involved us like I said, that's the premise behind it. Having different different players play with each other that normally would not. And so when I see you on the street at some other point and you remember and know that I played with you, we played together, there's no animosity because we were friends back then. Why can't we be friends now?
Definitely. And this is in the Charlotte Mali Gymnasium, correct?
Yes.
All right, so you're 1-for-1 with pictures now. You have one in Charlotte Mali, you have one in Ken.
Right.
With the decision. All right, moving on. Let me see. Yep.
Yeah, that's what it's all about right there. Our summer basketball camp, teaching our campus the correct stance when it comes to defense. That stance right there, you're actually supposed to have your knees bent a little bit more. If you can see, the young man is a little bit bent over. Your back is supposed to be straight up and down. Your legs are supposed to be apart. Your hands are supposed to be out. And if you think about that, my coach Larry Brown used to have our entire team do that for 30 minutes straight before every practice. He used to make us get down, and our heads have to be the same level. If he saw one player head bob up over the others, he would add another minute. So you figure if you do that every day, halfway through the season, our team, we were a tremendous defensive team because we were conditioned to be down in that position for 30 minutes or more if needed, and it taught us how to be better defenders.
All right, that's a great shot of participation. Look at the number of children that are in there, and they're all smiling. That's the part about it right there. They're enjoying what they're doing, and I'm sure you're enjoying having them there. So it's a great all-around experience for our kids here in the Virgin Islands.
Yes, and in regards to our camp, I mean, we average right at about 100 campers every summer between the two groups that we have, the 8 to 13 and the 14 to 17. So, that's one thing that we're really proud about.
All right, definitely. We look forward to seeing that camp coming right back here to these Virgin Islands. All right, moving on to the next picture. Here we go.
Yes. I want to say that was the first year. That was at Bertha Bachelta.
Yep.
That was our first year. My wife and I, we came down And what we did is we spoke to, I want to say four or five schools on St. Thomas, and then we went to St. Croix and spoke to about 3 schools. And, you know, so we took a picture after, but I remember being in that auditorium and talking to, you know, talking to the students about, you know, just, you know, knowing and believing that they can do great things. And we had a really good time. That was our first time down there doing that. And, you know, we would always take photos with the students afterwards.
All right, moving on.
Yep. So now we're 1 and 2 with two at Eudora 10. That was the same day. I think we stopped at Eudora Ken first, and I was addressing the students. We had Senator Graham there, my wife Shalon, and you know, just basically telling them like who I am, where I was from, some of the accomplishments I've made, and the fact that like if I could do it, like you can too. So that day was a great day because it kind of gave us a start into understanding what we really wanted to mean to the VI youth. And if we say we wanted to do something and be this, knowing that we were going to have to work hard to make sure that we don't disappoint. And
the best thing about this picture is there's nothing about basketball here. So you can tell it's not basketball that drives you. It's just giving back to your community. You're speaking to children while they're in school. Nothing to do with basketball, completely separate, but you're still giving back to your community. So we can see where your passion really is. It's not in basketball, it's in people. So we definitely are proud of you for these steps that you're taking in life.
Oh, thank you.
Moving on.
Yeah, that's where it is right there, teaching. You know, just teaching on campus, like how to do things correctly. You know, we think, and even at this level, when we see players shooting the ball with bad mechanics and we don't correct them, you know, we're doing them a disservice. And so for me to pull, you know, some of the campers aside and give them some individual attention is always something good. Because I mentioned to you before, when I was younger, when I was that age, like I wanted people to notice me. Like I wanted people to look at me and like give me some attention. And so I always made it a point during the entire week to pull some of the campers apart and encourage them, you know, maybe talk about something they're doing well, or maybe trying to correct some of the things that they need help on. But yeah, I think that's a great photo right there.
All right, I think that was the last picture. So it started off pretty rough for you, pretty rough for you, but we got it going. We got back to where we wanted to go with this, giving back to your community, and once again, just being a great role model for students in the Virgin Islands. Now, we have a lot of people on our live stream right now that were sending questions, and we want to make sure that we get every single question in. So you have a long night to go. Okay, a couple more questions for you from our viewers, and we will relay them to you, as well as we put on the screen so you can see who sent those questions and answer it to the best of your ability.
All right.
So first of all, Mr. Newton, what advice do you give to young children who want to better their opportunities to play basketball professionally?
Okay. Well, the one thing you have to do, like wanting to play professional ball or wanting to be a doctor, an attorney, whatever it is, first of all, you have to set that goal. And, you know, just to be totally blunt with you, just like, and I found this out, just because you want to be a professional athlete don't necessarily mean that you will be a professional athlete. But what you got to do is give yourself the best chance you can. And you can do that by practicing and committing yourself to the game. I've spoken in the past, and what I've told athletes is that you actually have a better shot at being a brain surgeon than you do a professional athlete. You know, you have, when it comes to the NBA, you have 30 teams, 15 players on a team. So there's only 15 players that can make that team at any one time. And every year there's a new draft. So you have more and more people coming in to that arena. You know, if you want to be a brain surgeon, obviously you have to go to school and learn about that. But you have much more of an opportunity to be that type of vocation than you are an athlete. But in regards to being a professional basketball player or football player or baseball player, it all depends on what's inside of you. Now, along the way, there could be injuries or what have you, but you have to put in the time every day. So when we do these camps, what I tell players is that, say, for instance, you're a good shooter, but you can't dribble or you can't defend. What you've done is narrowed your choice in making a team. Maybe you get on a team where all they need for you to do is shoot the ball. But there's going to come a point where you're going to have to do everything else. Like if you can score 20, but the guy you're guarding scores 30, then you're at a 10-point deficit. Coach can't play you. But if you can make yourself a more well-rounded player, that makes you more attractive. Now, the other things that you're not good at, those are the things you have to work on. And then it always comes back to when you, like from high school, naturally you go to college. If you don't have the grades coming out of high school, you're not going to college, plain and simple, at least to play basketball. You know, you could pay for college, but you got to have the grades to be able to compete athletically in college. And but it's all about having a goal and taking the steps to attain that goal. And in taking those steps, you got different things you got to deal with. Okay, your friends want to go to the mall and hang out, but you got to go and practice. Which one are you going to choose? You know, your friends want to go hang on the street corner, but you got to go to practice. You know, which one are you going to choose? You know, you got a girlfriend. You want to go to the movies. At the same time, you got to practice. Which one you're going to choose? So something is always going to suffer. Whichever you want the most, that's the thing that you'll put the most time into.
Now, that was a great answer, and it was a great question, actually. I'm going to give a very big shout out right now. That actually came from my 12-year-old sister. So I'm proud of her for asking that question on this live stream, and a big shout out to her.
All right, congrats. Great question.
All right, other than God, who is the most influential person in your career?
The most influential person in my career. Actually, my family is. My family is. You know, I work for my family. But if I had to talk about my upbringing and someone that guided me along my career, I would have to say my dad. My dad, he taught me what it is to be a man. What he taught me what it is to be a contributing member, a positively contributing member to society. He taught me what it was to don't stay down when you get knocked down, and was there for every milestone in my personal life, from my marriage to the birth of my kids to everything, to what I've done basketball. So I would have to kind of divide it between those two.
All right. How would you tell an Islander how to deal with racism that they will encounter? It's a tough one.
Okay. Well, to be honest with you, my mentality has always been one of, like, if you don't like me, or if you have something with me, that's not my problem, that's your problem. You know, that's my mentality. But I understand that everyone is not like that. And there are certain people that won't like you because they don't know you, or they may have been brought up that way. They were brought up to think the way their mom or their dad has lived their life and how they were brought up. And the one thing I noticed, right with the Bucks, I'm on what we call our Diversity Leadership Council. And, you know, we talk about, you know, things like this. I believe that as humans, we have more in common than we do differences. But we'll never, ever realize that unless we can be around each other with just like fresh eyes. You know, a lot of times we're tainted by how our experiences or how we grow up, how we were nurtured. Those are the things that kind of guide how we act. But if you ever notice, like if you have like young toddlers, one black, one white, you put them in a crib in a crib together, what do? They play together. So it's not like you're not born like that. But, you know, I understand we have, you know, racism that has been, people have treated us over the years, over the centuries, you know, 400 years of oppression, from slavery, you know, to now, police brutality. You know, at some point that kind of, you know, that wears on you. And, you know, John Lewis talks about that good trouble. Like, you know, it's good for us to get into that good trouble. But the one thing I got to say, though, about the generation now, the kids now, you know, I think they're more willing to not forget, but forgive and deal with people on their own experiences. And to me, you know, that's what it's all about. I mean, when I was coming up, I kind of had that mentality for a minute, like, you know, looking at someone and not really necessarily liking them because they were different from me. But as I've gotten more mature and more older and seeing people for who they are, I treat you how you treat me with our experience together. And for me, it doesn't matter, you know, what color you are. You know, like if you treat me honestly, you treat me good, you know, you can expect that in return. So I think that mentality is a good mentality to have. You know, we should never, ever forget, you know, where we come from and how we've been dealt with. But I think if we want to make, we want to make this, you know, this world a better place, like, you know, we all have to start, you know, thinking a little bit differently as to how, you know, people, you know, how we see people. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, I'm not going to stand for someone mistreating me. You know, if you mistreat, like I said before, like if you push me, I'll push back. That's just my mentality. But just on face value, seeing someone for the first time, you know, you never know that person could be, you know, the best friend you ever had, because in their mind, you know, they saw you as, you know, a human being other than, you know, being black or white or whatever.
Right. I definitely agree with you on that. Let me see. When was it that you realized that you need to learn a lot more about basketball than you first thought?
From Veronica, when I went to the mainland, when I went to the States, because and you know, my friends, when I bring them down to the islands for the camp, they said, "Man, you guys like playing that bully ball, right?" And it's all based on athleticism, you know, being able to run and jump. But everybody can run and jump at that next level. And I just remember, you know, if you can't shoot the ball that well, you know, these players are very smart. So if you don't shoot the ball that well, I'm not going to get up on you defensively and have you drive by me if that's your strong suit. I'm going to back off and let you shoot because I know you're not going to make it. So seeing those things and understanding those things early, when I was in the 9th grade in New Jersey and on to high school, my coach would always say, try to make your weakest link as strong as possible. And if you can work in all parts of your game, you make yourself a better talent, a better player. And a lot of times we work on the things we're already good at. I can run and jump naturally. I don't need to work on that, you know, but I need to work on my ball handling. I need to work on my on shooting the basketball. I need to work on moving my feet laterally to keep the offensive guy in front of me. And so when I left the mainland, when I left the islands, I saw it was more than just being athletic, and that I had to think the game. I had to think the game. And so that's when I started getting better.
Now, how difficult is it for players to come to a small market like Milwaukee?
Can you repeat that?
How difficult is it to get star players to come to a small market like Milwaukee?
Well, put it like this: like it's difficult to do that because, well, it used to be difficult. Put it like that because a lot of the players wanted to go to the coastal teams, the Miamis, the LAs, or the big cities, Chicago, New York. But like in our case with Giannis, he was drafted here. So the fact that he was drafted here and we helped him develop into the player that he became. So now when you have a superstar like that, even though you're in a small market, other players want to come and play for you, play with you. So in free agency, we were just able to sign Drew Holiday. Drew is one of the most underrated players in the NBA, can do it on both ends of the floor, has already made an all-star, two-time all-defensive team. So it makes it easier when you have other players that other players want to play with. But then also the one thing that I've realized is that we've actually developed a culture here that we're all about you and your family, doing what's best for you and your family, legally, doing everything first class from how we travel, doing everything first class and how when we're on the road, having team outings and making you feel like you're a part of a family. So in the event you get traded, and we've experienced this before. We've had other players from other teams tell us, yo, man, I spoke to such and such the other day, and he says, man, he goes, the culture here and the organization is first class. And, he was sad to leave, but, when players talk about that amongst their peers, now players want to come because they know when they come to your organization, there's a certain way that you get treated. And I think every player wants that.
Definitely. Now, this is an interesting question. Are the Bucks going to allow fans into the arena at some point?
Okay. We hope to, but in the city of Milwaukee, where the arena is situated, the municipalities are different from other teams. Like we go to New Orleans for a Friday game, and they are allowing a certain amount of fans into their arena. For us, there won't be any fans in our arena until I want to say March, and that's because we're not allowed to legally. And then when that happens, it won't be 100% capacity because we're trying everything we can to not only stay safe, keep our players safe, but also keep our fans safe. So when they come back, we don't know what percentage. It could be 25%, could be 35%, but hopefully by the end of the year, we can have fans back in the arena.
All right, and the final question: are kids from St. Croix involved in your Emerald Gems Foundation program?
Yes, we've had campers come from St. Croix before. See, the biggest thing is the transportation over here and getting them set up. When the last time they came through, Coach Donald Bow brought them over, and I want to say that they stayed at UVI. But people have asked us also, well, would Emerald Gems come to St. Croix and conduct camps? That's something we hope to do in the near future. But like I said, all of that takes finances. And initially we said, we were going to start out in St. Thomas and hopefully at some point being able to do things over in St. Croix like we do in St. Thomas. But we haven't gotten to that point yet to be able to do that because, we just don't have the financial bandwidth to be able to do both islands. But in terms of campers coming over, we welcome them. We love to have them. And it's just a matter of, being able to sponsor them to come over and be involved in the camp, because we have done that a couple of years.
Definitely. Well, Milt, you did a very good job here on our show today. Some very valuable information. But before you go, we just want you to say some words to the people of the Virgin Islands and our live wire followers before you go.
All right. Well, first of all, I appreciate, sharing this time with you. As I mentioned before, I am a Virgin Islander, even though I've spent most of my life in Washington, D.C., but I wasn't born in Washington, D.C. I didn't grow up in Washington, D.C. And so I always joke and say, at any time, the people in Washington, D.C. that claim me as their own, they can discard me anytime they want. Virgin Islanders can't do that because I was born and raised there. And so I definitely am appreciative of all the support, appreciative of all the people, that I've grown up with, that have followed me, followed my career. I take it really seriously in terms of being a role model for Virgin Island youth, especially because, like I said, that was me when I was younger. And, I, along with my wife and my family, through our foundation, would do everything we can to be a positive influence on our youth, a positive influence on other Virgin Islanders. And, we plan on doing everything that we can to give back and to help in any way we can. It's my passion. It's a legacy that I want to leave. Being one of the greatest Virgin Islanders to give back. That's my legacy that I'd like to leave. And, and also have my family, kind of adopt that same, that same mandate. So, I really enjoyed my time, talking with everyone and answering questions and letting you all know a little bit about me. And, wish you guys well. Make sure you get to those sites and get a ticket so you can get your turkey. But at the end of the day, St. Thomas is my home island, but I gotta say big ups to the West.
Definitely.
All day.
All right. Once again, thank you, Milt, for joining us, and we will see you in our post-show meeting. Livewire fans, thank you for joining us for a great season of Between the Lines presented to you by Livewire Sports. This, however, was our season finale. We might be back next year with some more good stuff for you. We definitely have a lot of good stuff coming forward for you, actually. Might have a new show in the workings. You might come back with this same show. You never know. Stay tuned to Livewire Sports. But before we go, we want to talk about our very special event that we have going on next week, Tuesday. We have a giveaway, a local brand giveaway, where we'll be posting this flyer on Facebook. It's actually already on Facebook, where you can follow our page. You can post 5 friends or comment 5 friends underneath our post in order to win one of these great prizes we have for our Christmas giveaway. We'll be live at 7 p.m. next week, Wednesday, the 23rd, to give away these items from these different local brands. Please tune in and please comment on the post for your chance to win one of these fabulous prizes. Before we go, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors that have been here with us all season, which is Leo III Sibley for his introduction track, which was called Born Ready. It's on all streaming platforms. Want to give a shout out to our visual coordinator, Shane O'Neill, our executive producer, Lorena Robinson. We're sponsored also by Sweet Surrender VI, Dreamland Clothing, and Coach J from Fabtabulous Nutrition. If you have any videography or any picture needs, you can go to Brilliant Designs. They are who designed our great introduction video, all right? So again, thank you guys for tuning in to Between the Lines for this season. And we'll be back next year with some more good stuff for you guys. See you.
I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for pioneering. Whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for pioneering. I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for pioneering. Whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for